listening is a skill that unfortunately most of us lack or are very low quality on, including myself. I took an effective listening class in my undergrad down at Shippensburg University, a whole entire class, and I did not do real well when we were doing our evaluations, as in I really needed to work on my listening skills. And I feel like a lot of us are not the best. It's a skill that we just do not do anymore. We live in a very selfish, me society. It's about me. How can I relate it to me of what someone's saying? Or maybe I'm thinking of a response, or maybe I just got a text message and I need to see who is texting me. So we tend to not listen very well. And I think all of us have probably felt that feeling at one point or another, whether it was in a personal relationship where you thought maybe your partner was not listening to what you were saying, or in a work situation where a coworker or a boss just wasn't really hearing you. So let's go into this a little bit more. At the end, we'll be doing a self-evaluation, and you can see where you sit, and if you want to really get to be a better listener, we'll go through a few skills at the end. So let's talk about why listening is so important. First of all, we have to listen to learn. So we'll be listening to each other's speeches, and that is one thing I hear in all of my classes, that I've learned so much about other things. Again, I allow you to pick your own topic. So you choose a topic that you're comfortable with, that you enjoy, and that will come through in your presentation as well. So it increases knowledge when you listen. Also, that critical listening skills. What is being said? Where is that research coming from? When you start listening critically, that will also help you increase your listening skills. Listening builds better relationships. As I noted before, pretty much guarantee all of us have been in some type of relationship where we feel like we just have not been heard. Whether it is personal or business, our voice is just not being heard. And think about how that makes you feel. It does not make you feel very good. And ultimately, being an active listener and listening process is part of that communication process. So when that is broken down, that means that the whole process is broken down when someone is not listening. That process has then just been broken down, and it can't continue on. So I want to go over two terms here. The first one is hearing, and that's really just that physiological process of receiving sound into the ear. There's vibration, and we hear something. So receiving sound, hearing with the ear. On the flip side, listening is actually paying attention and assigning meaning to what is being heard. Now that comes from our experiences, our knowledge, our education. So it may be different. So it's for everyone and how that's interpreted. So hearing is with the ear, listening is with the mind, is how I say. Let's talk about the types of listening. And there's 4 types that we'll focus on. The first one is appreciative and real simple, for pleasure. So it might be music, it might be a podcast, it might be you sitting near the ocean and hearing the waves crash. Whatever you do for pleasure, maybe an audiobook. Next one is empathic, and that is listening for support. So think of a clergy or maybe a friend or some type of other support system. You're listening for support. Comprehensive then is more like listening to understand. That's what we'll be doing sort of in our form of informative speeches. Listening to understand. So in practical use, maybe you went to the doctor, you got a new prescription, and you're listening on how to take the drug. So you're listening to understand. You're listening to features of a feature film, just to understand what's going on. So critical is one step further. There's where you're going to not only listen for all of that information that you learned in the comprehensive, just like in our informative speech, you're also going to have to then make decisions. You're listening to it critically, such as in our persuasive speech, where you're trying to influence thought or persuade action. So say in an election, which we have our election coming up here. So any election, or buying a new home, something very expensive. So really critically listening to the information to be able to decide and make a critical decision. So what are some things that could prevent us from listening, to break down that process? We have two types. We have internal noise and we have external noise. So internal noise is really most of the time actually what we will deal with that stops our listening. Could be physiological, such as headaches or sleepy, or you just don't feel real well. It could be psychological. You're bored. You're preoccupied. You have so much going on. I don't have time for this right now. Maybe you're anxious. You have a deadline coming up for your speech. Haven't really prepared. You're just a little anxious. So all of that can stop you from listening, whether in any situation, at work, at home. So be aware of that. A lot of it is coming from that internal being. On the flip side, you have that external noise. So it could be environmental. You hear noises outside. You're trying to do your work and your children are coming in and screaming. Or your cat walks across your screen, something like that. Maybe bad lighting, room temperature, smells. Linguistic. Not only a language barrier in this situation, it could be jargon. Whether it's industry jargon, just words that just don't make sense to you, you don't know. Or even jargon such as all of that breaks the flow, and it's very easy then for you to stop listening, and overall then just poor organization from the speaker themselves. So what we can do here, and there's going to be some other handouts further down in your lesson, as well as some videos that talk about how you can actively listen as well as critically listen. So I'll go through this, and then some of the stuff will be repeated. There's going to be some new ideas brought in as well. So obviously give the speaker your full attention so you understand how it is, especially if you are in front of a live audience. If someone's not paying attention, you in front can absolutely see all of that. So give the audience, make sure you're actively listening. Listen for main points. All of our speeches, as I noted before, we're going to have between 2 and 4 main points. That will not change no matter how long your presentation is. If I do an hour presentation, main points are still 2 to 4 main points. Take notes if you need to. I always jot down notes. Respond to the speaker, not necessarily overtly, but if something really sparks you, nod your head. Say yeah. Don't fake it. We all can see that. When you're looking at your phone, when you're looking away, we can see that. And if you are very interested, participate in that question and answer. Or if you're questioning something about what that person said, do that as well. Listen critically, so carefully. What words are they using? Where is the support coming from? Do they have credible sources? Ask questions if you need to. If something doesn't make sense, ask the question. Explore alternatives. Are there other options than what that person said? I love this one. Maintain a childlike curiosity. I know sometimes kids might just be a little too, aggressive on this word, but what's one word they always ask? Why? And really, what are they doing? They're trying to learn. They come out with zero information. They are learning every day. And that's what we need to do. Ask why. Try to learn something new every day. suspend judgment, and I'll go along with that. Keep an open mind. So, watch the prejudice, watch even the topic prejudice that you may have, and just keep that open mind. If the speaker is doing their job, you will be able to hear those main points. You will be able to hear that support that they're using, that unbiased support. So open your mind and be able to listen for that. And if they're doing that, they are using the proper criteria.